What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Game Time and Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth. Day 2 of the Senior Bowl practices are in the books. We will break down that. Some winners and losers, touch on all positions as we did yesterday. But we will start with just a little bit of Patriots news that came out throughout the day. Not too much to add to it, but after the Mike Pellegrino and Brian Belichick departure yesterday, the Patriots are expected to hire Bills. He coached their nickel corners, senior defensive assistant Scott Booker. So we don't have his exact title yet, but they are adding another defensive back coach to the staff, and again, Scott Booker. So we'll probably, Vrabel's down there at the Senior Bowl this week. They'll come back after the game on Saturday or sometime over the next few days. And I'd imagine we'll get a finalized staff where we'll get all these guys official titles, and maybe there are a few surprises like last year in general assistant roles or analysts or something like that. So when we get all of the information, again, hopefully next week, we will run through the whole staff on a show, but we just wanted to start off there that they are adding another defensive backs coach to the staff there in Scott Booker from the Bills. So that was just a little bit of news that broke today, but we will get right into the Senior Bowl and right into the good stuff. Again, day 2 of practices. Both teams felt a little more physical and intense out there. We're from watching through TV at least, but we will start as we did yesterday with the offensive linemen and those tackles, which are kind of the big draw for the Patriots specifically. And, they have 2 of the higher projected prospects there with Ariante Ursary and Josh Connerly. Interesting switch today. Elliot Wolf must have put the phone call in and had him cross-train, right? They had some of those guys at right tackle, some of the right tackles at left tackle. So we saw some of that switch. What did you see from those guys at the tackle spot there today on day 2?
Look, I think, and it's a good point about Elliot Wolf. I think this setting is very different. I know I've been anti-tackle switching size, but I think in this setting, which is literally a showcase, showcase which guys right teams want to see, that it does make a lot of sense. That being said, most guys struggled with it, which shows you how it's not that easy. Connerly definitely did. There's that clip going around of Mike Green kind of flattening him, although Green also took himself out of the play, so I don't think that's as dominant a win as some people are maybe making it. I'm not super worried about Josh Connerly. Okay, he's maybe not a great left tackle. He should not be playing left tackle if he's here. That would be a mistake. You're drafting him to be your left tackle, right? Same with Ariante Ursary. That being said, there were a couple guys that I think did show up well in those cross-training drills, which helps. We had talked on Monday, Brian, about Anthony Belton being a guy we hope to see in that situation. I thought he might have had the best day of any lineman, certainly on the national team, and he's worked at guard as well. So he's looking like a tremendously versatile player. He's pretty high on my board right now relative to maybe where he is on the consensus. I really like what I've seen from him. Ozzie Trapillo from BC is another guy who is still probably a right tackle in the NFL primarily, but didn't look out of place on the left side. So that's a thing where
he looked better at right today too, which, naturally that would make sense, but he definitely looked better today.
So that's a guy where where you're taking him, it's a little bit later, probably more of a depth player, and okay, he can play both tackle spots. That's encouraging. So I like that out of him, but I'm trying to think when Connerly was at left, he got beat once, but I thought he was solid. I thought Ursary, again, on the left side was fine. None of these other tackles. I guess the one guy we talked about him yesterday is Carson Vincent, who's been good. He continues to put up some impressive stuff. None of the other tackles have really popped to me, or certainly didn't today, besides those guys. But I think I've still seen what I wanted to see from Connerly and Ursary this week. I haven't had anything where I was like, oh, that worries me. Other than, again, all right, they're not right tackles. And
some people do think Ursary in the NFL will be a right tackle. So, and where do you think he would fit ideally in a Josh McDaniels offense? Because they usually have those big kind of maulers on the right side of the line, right? So
they do, but he also has that athleticism. This is a lofty. I don't know that this is my outright comp for him, but he is kind of that Trent Brown prototype, where he's more athletic for his size. And Trent Brown obviously played both sides here. So, and like Ursary, if you work with him, could get to right tackle, but you're drafting him at left initially. Maybe he moves over there. I'm not saying he can't get over there eventually, but I'm just not super worried that like neither one is ready at right tackle right now. Ursary, yeah, Connerly's a left tackle, period. Like he shouldn't be playing over there. Ursary, if you told me they draft him at left tackle in a couple of years, maybe the situation arises where it makes more sense for him to play on the right side. I could definitely see it going down that path. But I think that's more a thing where like you have time to prepare for that. Whereas they're not going to play. They shouldn't be playing him at right tackle as a rookie if they draft him. You're drafting him to be your left tackle.
Yep. Yeah, I think he deserves the chance to start at left tackle, and you'll see what happens there if he can make it work and stick at left tackle, or, maybe next year you're looking at a switch to the right side. But yeah, Belton, you mentioned too, really another good day. Where do you think his stock, you mentioned that you're kind of higher than maybe consensus. Where do you think his stock kind of is right now? Like, is he creeping into the back half of day 2, like maybe where Caden Wallace and those guys went off the board last year? Like that was earlier 3rd round, but still back half of day 2.
Well, those guys also last year the class was different. You had that run, like all those guys went ahead of where they were projected because of the run of tackles. But if they took, I have to see at the beginning of the draft went, but like in theory, if they took Anthony Belton at 77, I could see it if they had the right draft in front of it. I don't think that would be a bad pick. Like 104 to me would be the sweet spot, but after a really good week, and he's probably a guy that's going to test well at the combine, I do think he can sneak into the top 100. He's already sort of there. But I don't mind them at any point in the draft really reaching for a tackle. Last year, they did the opposite. They were so steadfast, and we won't trade up for these guys because that's not where we value them. And you have to adjust when players start going and there's a run, and they didn't. So, if tackles are going and all that, I could see him sneaking maybe into the back end of the 2nd round or of day 2. Sorry, I don't think he'll get up into the 2nd round, but back into day 2. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of how he's talked about. If he has another strong day tomorrow, he's going to be one of the better tackles coming out of this week. And that usually bodes well for guys.
Yeah. I just think with the premium on the position and then the versatility he's shown where left and right, and even if you want to kick him inside the guard, he had a few reps yesterday at guard and he held his own. Like those type of guys I could see rising up the board. So maybe you are, 68, 77 there in the 3rd round. Like that could be a sweet spot for Anthony Belton. But any of those, speaking of guards, interior, another great day for Gray Zabel. Like he's the best offensive lineman there. But any other of those interior guys that caught your eye, maybe later down where it's more likely the Patriots could pick a guard out there in that range?
The one guy, who's the guy from Jack State?
Oh,
he's been stonewalling guys. It's like a short name. Again,
I had the guy from Sac State, Jackson Slater. He's been impressive.
He's been good. I think he's like a true center though, right? Or is he a guard?
I think I want to say he was listed as a tackle, but he's been playing guard and center for some reason. Are you thinking of Webb from?
Yes, I think it's Webb.
I forget his first name, but I think it's Webb.
Clay Webb.
Yeah,
he's been good. Especially he's somebody who's done a good job handling. There's so many like oversized right tackles, defensive tackles, and you want to see how the smaller guys can they play above their weight. And that's it. Left guard with Josh McDaniels. Like that's what you want to see, a guy that can pass protect, but can play above his weight in a run game when he needs to. And so far, Jack Webb's done that this week. I think he's done a nice job of this. And he's probably a day 3 guy. So I don't really want them going guard above day 3. Like they've done enough. And I know they don't have a clear answer. They have too many other needs. Like at this point, you kind of have to figure it out with Cole Strange and City So, and Layden Robinson. And like, if you want to add another day 3 guy, fine. So I think those are the guys you're kind of looking for. Like Gray Zabel's been outstanding. They should not be taking a guard where Gray Zabel's going to go.
Unless they freaking kill free agency.
Unless they somehow,
Yeah.
We'll see. Like, it wouldn't even just be free agency. There'd have to be trades and this and that, but.
I was looking at I just pulled up Jackson Slater, his PFFs to see his snaps. He is a guard. He played majority of his college career at left guard. He's been working at right guard and center though at the Senior Bowl. Except so his sophomore season at Sac State, he was a left guard. But in week 14, he played 85 snaps at left tackle. And whatever the hell happened, week 15, he played 114 snaps at left tackle 1 week. So he's got two
Probably a lot
games
of
of left
overtimes.
tackle experience, but it was 200 snaps in 2 games. So I don't know what went down in those games. But yeah, he is a guard interior player at the next level, but he's had an impressive few days. And the UNC center too, Willie Lampkin, like another undersized guy, like
Yeah.
5'10", but he's been able to handle some of those bigger interior rushers. He hit one guy with the Iverson step over today after one of his one-on-one reps.
Saw that.
So he's been impressive. And maybe if they are in the center market later rounds, that's someone who piques their interest there, Willie Lampkin from UNC. But that's the offensive line. We'll stick on offense, go to wide receivers. Any wide receivers today that had you standing up out of your chair or, catch your eye?
Well, so we talked yesterday about I was like paranoid that I invented Kyle Williams in my mind and nobody was talking about him and what was I missing?
Exist.
So every time I see him line up for one-on-one, I'm like, all right, here we go, Kyle Williams. Boom, ESPN cuts away. What the hell? Like, not helping. But then I saw Taylor got a really good video. I saw some other people put videos out. So he was doing a great job of creating separation today. He really was. I thought he had a really strong day. I thought Xavier Restrepo was solid again, had a good double move in one-on-ones. Jaden Higgins, right, from Iowa State is really intriguing if they want like a big slot, Jacoby Myers kind of guy. And then, look, Tez Johnson was good again. And Tez Johnson's going to be an interesting one to talk about. He's another one of these players that good player. I don't think he makes sense for the Patriots. I don't see how they justify that pick. But if we're talking about what players had a good day, he had a hell of a day again.
Yeah. He has been really good the last 2 days, but we talked about him yesterday, like 100, what did we say, 156 pounds he measured in at? Like there's some shorter Taekwon vibes, and now he can separate, unlike Taekwon, but just the wiry frame and like just another one of those inside guys. Like I'm kind of good on the Tez Johnson.
So we made the joke about Taekwon yesterday, I think, and I've made it a few times. Like to be fair, like he definitely has more wiggle. He's more agile than Taekwon. It's more of a size thing.
He looks more like an actual wide receiver than Taekwon ever did, really.
But he's still like, he's not going to be able to handle a volume role in the NFL. If you draft him, you're replacing Pop Douglas. And if you told me you could get him like in the 5th round and, you're going to have competition for Pop and camp, like fine. He's going to end up being a top 50 pick. And they need to be adding, not replacing in the top 50. So I just don't see, you need to have an immediate impact plan for guys you take that high. I don't know what the immediate impact plan is for him here. And there's just, and people will say, well, that was, the problem with Ladd McConkey was they thought Ladd McConkey was redundant. And so they didn't draft him. They thought he was redundant to Pop. 1, he wasn't redundant to Pop. So they blew the evaluation. 2, it's not even necessarily about, well, you're not drafting Tez Johnson because you have Pop Douglas, so you have to take another receiver. What about an offensive tackle? What about a corner? What about a tight end, right? Like they have so many needs. It just doesn't, you're talking about a guy that's going to be a gadget player, your third wide receiver, good third wide receiver, but a guy's going to be your third wide receiver, gadget player. Tez Johnson is not going to be your Julian Edelman. He's not built for that workload. He's not going to be able to do it. And he's not next. You're not going to be able to play him at the X. So he's going to be that Z gadgety sort of player. And they have that. They have 2 of those guys, really, if you want to talk about Marcus Jones. So if you're drafting him, and if your immediate impact plan is fine, he's so much better than Pop, I want to draft him, fine. Pop Douglas is, top 5 player on a team probably? And so you're so focused on replacing him that you're not addressing anything else. We're talking about a top 50 pick here. Like you need to be adding, they don't have any edge rushers. They don't have a free safety. They don't have an X receiver. They don't have a second corner besides Gonzalez. You need to add to the roster before you start upgrading guys.
And I don't think that's saying like Pop Douglas is irreplaceable because I think ultimately in the long run, you hope you do upgrade Pop Douglas. We've kind of
Right.
used the Danny Amendola, and then you find your Julian Edelman. I think, excuse me, watching the Bills, they have Khalil Shakir. I think like a ideal role for Pop Douglas is kind of like Curtis Samuel, right? Like he comes in, he had a huge play in the Denver playoff game. He makes a spark. He had a touchdown in one of the last two games. Like he's still a good player and a part of the team, but
Right.
like ultimately, I think in the long run, you want to upgrade that piece. But right now, when you have so many places to upgrade, is that the one thing you really want to look in on upgrading? I don't know.
And that's going to be the same role for Tez Johnson. So again, I don't think Pop is the starting slot receiver. I don't think he can handle the volume. If he was, then yeah, you draft Tez Johnson B to Z and Pop's in the slot, and there you go. But Pop's not your volume slot guy. Tez Johnson's not your volume slot guy. I just don't think Tez Johnson fixes things to the degree that, they'd probably have taken, what do they have, like 66? Is that what it is? 69?
68 or
If he's
69?
even there, I don't think he helps you to the degree that a player you're taking with that pick should help you, the way this team is built specifically.
You'd lean like a Restrepo then over?
I think Restrepo makes much more of an impact on this team if Josh McDaniels is going to run the offense the way we think he's going to run it than Tez Johnson would.
Yep. I don't know. I haven't been that blown away by Restrepo the last 2 days. He's had some good moments, some bad. Like I think some people thought he was going to come in here and do like what Ladd McConkey did last year and just dominate every single rep. He's not as good as Ladd McConkey, so that hasn't happened. But still, like you go back and watch him at Miami, like he's a hell of a player. I'm still a fan of him, but that slot kind of role. Jalen Noel from Iowa State, Jaden Higgins' teammate.
He's been really good.
Big fan of Jalen Noel. He's been unguardable in one-on-ones, and I think he's got more lawn speed than Restrepo. And you even watch him at Iowa State. Like I think they said today on the broadcast, he had the most or tied for the most 50-plus yard touchdowns in college football this year. So he's got some of that more vertical speed than Restrepo. So I'm a big fan of Jalen Noel in that role. Jaden Higgins, as you mentioned, his teammate, had a really good day. He's got the size. Do you think he's a big slot at the next level? I know you quickly said that, but do you think that's kind of his best role? Like he is 6'4", so he's got the size to hang on the outside, but do you think he's got the physicality to kind of do that?
I've been more impressed with him on the outside. I don't think he's a full-time X. I think he's a guy that can rep out there if you need. He's probably best as a big slot, but I think he has some versatility, which I wasn't expecting as much from him on the outside as we've seen.
Yep.
Now there's a guy that gives you something you don't have, just size and physicality at the wide receiver position.
Definitely. He's an interesting player, but he could be getting up to like early day 2, like somewhere in the second round, based off how some people are talking.
We know if they take a receiver there, people are just instantly going to write him off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the last one, someone mentioned Jalen Royals too. He's had 2 really good days. Did you see his first one-on-one route today, Jalen Royals?
Remind me. I know I did. I can't.
He comes off the line and he just like bull rushes the corner over and then has a nice route. I gasped at it. It was so unexpected. But he's really good off the line of scrimmage in his release package and explosive player. I think he said he's not even 100% yet with that injury he suffered to end the year. So he's really good, Jalen Royals. I like watching him. But anything else on receivers, or we can kind of move on?
Beck. What's his?
Yeah. Jack Beck.
Jack? Yeah.
Nice contested catch.
I've been impressed with him. Definitely some Jake Bobo vibes. Just a guy that is so dominant at the catch point. I don't think he's like an elite athlete at wide receiver, but he can win. He can win down the field. He can win through contact. He can kind of use his size to box out in the shorter parts of the field as well. They've had a rough track record with these kinds of players. So I'm hesitant to tab him as a Patriots fit. If they get a new wide receivers coach, maybe, but just like objectively, he looks like a good player. Yep.
He's had two impressive days, and he can move pretty well for that size, but we'll see what's in store for him. So I want to touch on some other pass catchers at other positions, but very quickly before we do that, I also want to touch on Prize Picks, where you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash in the playoff season is winding down. The big game is coming up, so don't miss out on the last week of football action with Prize Picks, where again you can win up to 1,000 times your money, and you can do so by doing the Prize Picks big game free pick. Patrick Mahomes has a projection discount, just needs one passing yard. He needs to get more than half a passing yard. I think Patrick Mahomes.
Is it an air yard? That might be tough.
That is very true. Screen God, Patrick Mahomes. But I think he can do one pass yard. Xavier Worthy can figure out, make some guys miss. So you can pair that with Xavier Worthy, more than 56.5 receiving yards, maybe Travis Kelce, more than 62.5 receiving yards. Or if your team Philly, Saquon Barkley leading the way, more than 112.5 passing yards. On Prize Picks, put any of those guys in your player projection lineup. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even have to win on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. A few other pass catchers. We can start with tight ends, and then we'll get into running backs. Another good day for Elijah Arroyo, Miami's tight end. What'd you see from him and anyone else out of that group catch your eye?
Yeah, this guy's awesome. Like you look at a lot of his big plays at Miami, and it's just more attention being paid to Restrepo or teams trying to, spy or blitz Cam Ward. And the big question for me coming in is like when it's focused on him, right? With the one-on-ones, he's a guy I think usually we sort of throw out one-on-ones advantage offense always, but I'm like, all right, let's see like how he can really separate with the guy across him. He's been excellent. He's a little smaller. He's not really there as a blocker yet, but as a developmental, now he may end up going above where you take a developmental tight end, but he's been great. He's been excellent. I also think Jake Ferguson from Oregon has been really good, although we both agreed his great diving catch was probably offensive pass interference. But even beside that, he had a great day. I think he's been really good. So
I did see another angle where he might have been getting held on the back. So maybe it was dueling.
So maybe a little hand fighting. Maybe you just pocket the flag. Okay. All right.
He was
either way,
today, though.
Even without that catch, I think he had a good day. And he's like, you want a guy that's just like physically dominant at the position, right? Size, strength, athleticism. Like he is like prototypical, like the boxes you're checking on a traditional tight end. I think he has that in spades. So, and he's projected to go a little later. He's a little bit older. Doesn't have as much of a ceiling, but that's a guy I could totally see as a fit for the Patriots. I thought it was interesting. The broadcast compared Gavin Bartholomew to Jason Witten. That felt like a little bit of a stretch.
I missed that one. That is.
They said Gavin, if I heard it correctly, that Gavin Bartholomew is a Jason Witten starter kit for an NFL team.
Jason Witten starter kit,
which I assume means they're like, he has the tools, he has the potential, but you got to coach him into that.
That's interesting.
That's pretty high praise. Still not seeing much from Harold Fannin, which is a little disappointing.
That, especially from a guy who, he's at Bowling Green. So
right.
You read more into that when he comes to one of these all-star games and he doesn't look as impressive. Like that's interesting. That still, like with Josh, especially, I think we said yesterday, like Harold Fannin is one of those scheme touch players, maybe a little bit more. So I don't know what the fit was there, but yeah, he has been pretty quiet. Arroyo and Ferguson were my two big guys at the tight end position there. They've been having a good couple days there in that group. So running backs, not much room on the ground in any of these practices. Some guys are making more of an impact as a pass catcher. Definitely Donovan Edwards from Michigan is leading that charge. He's had two really good days in one-on-ones against linebackers as a pass catcher. But who have you liked in the backfield?
I've liked Donovan Edwards. He's done a good job catching the football. Devin Neal has looked good. I think he's had a good couple days.
He had the best run today, probably.
Yeah. I'm still high on Ollie Gordon. I just, again, seeing him out there, there's a ton of potential. LaQuint Allen had a nice catch today as well, a guy I've talked about a few times. So these are guys we're going to need to see more in the game. Obviously, like you said, not a ton of opportunities to run the football, but Edwards, I mean, I've seen some people wondering if like Edwards is a slot receiver. I kind of hate that because he is a really good runner, and I think you're limiting yourself. I do like there is a role for him where you can go two running back personnel and put him in the slot at times. but I wouldn't like draft him as a receiver. I'd keep him as a running back and just give him a significant receiving role. But he's definitely like, it's been impressive.
Do you know off the top of your head, maybe not, like, did him and Blake Corum ever share the field for Michigan last year?
Yeah, but not like that.
Yeah.
They were, I mean, maybe a handful of times, but that was more just, it was Michigan, it was power packages.
Power pony, stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Not as a pass catcher.
I mean, I'm sure he's split out wide at times. I'm sure he's done it, but I don't think that's not really Michigan's MO.
Especially with JJ McCarthy back there.
Right.
But yeah, Edwards, Devin Neal. I still like RJ Harvey, UCF. He had a couple nice routes today, but it is right now it's more of a feel for those, stop start quick pass catcher guys.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the game we get a little bit more of that downhill run game. We can see like an Ollie Gordon really get to, get low, get under his pads and stuff like that. So
like Damian Martinez is a guy super excited to see this week. And I mean, it hasn't been a setting where he would be a factor quite yet.
Definitely. But anything on quarterbacks to end offense? It's been a rough 2 days for the quarterbacks.
It's been bad. We're not getting that late riser that I spent, 2-3 weeks hyping up. You could argue that Dylan Gabriel's rough. Milroe's erratic. He's probably been the best one. I would say aside from Milroe, you could argue El Gersma's right there with all of them. Like, he doesn't look out of place. And that, I think that says more about the rest of the quarterbacks than it does him. But it has been like Tyler Shuck has been all over the place.
I think in one-on-ones, Jackson Dart has probably been the best.
But that makes sense because all the Ole Miss is right. It's just running a straight line and I'll throw you the football.
It's just pick your target one-on-one and I'll find you. So that makes sense. Jackson Dart plays well in that setting. But yeah, it's been rough for the quarterbacks, especially when they're under center. Like the amount of footballs that have hit the ground, go back to the first few preseason games for Drake May, right, where he was really under center for the first time. Like that's kind of the vibe some of these guys are giving off. So you're not getting one of those risers that you might have hoped that could influence the trade down value of a pick right now.
I do wonder if it means anything for Joe Milton's trade value. If some of these teams are maybe reconsidering their plans at quarterback.
Rank Joe Milton's Senior Bowl performance against these guys.
Oh, him doing what he did last year is light years ahead of what these guys are doing. No, like actually, I'm not talking about teams like the Raiders at 6, right? Aren't rethinking because of this, but there's a team that's a year away. The Saints, maybe the Titans if they go Abdul Carter at 1, right? Who else? The Jets, if Aaron Rodgers will let them out of quarterback. Teams like that thing where you're trying to do the Jalen Hurts thing where, all right, we're going to use a day 2 pick on a quarterback and either he is the guy and then, wow, we got him for value, or he's not and we'll suck. And then we get to pick at the top of the draft and get our guy. The team's looking for that player. Is that player here? Maybe not. If there is, there's like, how many of them would there be? Who am I missing? That's not one of the top guys, but not at the Senior Bowl.
I mean, Will Howard was supposed to be there, but he bailed because he was just in the national championship game.
So maybe Will Howard's that guy. Maybe Quinn Ewers is that guy. I don't think Quinn Ewers is. So now it's like, that's all right,
gross if it is Quinn Ewers,
right? So now it's like, do we want to take Quinn Ewers in the 3rd round, or would we rather trade a 4th round pick for Joe Milton? Right? Do we want to take Jalen Milroe at the back end of the 1st, top of the 2nd? Would we rather trade a 3rd round pick for Joe Milton? Like, I don't know that that's going to happen, but if you are shopping a quarterback, the Senior Bowl is what you want to see.
Well, I've heard glowing reviews from Kyle McCord's performance at the Shrine Bowl this past week. So maybe it's Kyle.
I've heard a lot of glowing reviews about Kyle McCord over the years, but
just go back, watch his Ohio State film, and that'll shut down any
put the lights on and then see what he looks like. No offense, Syracuse, but put the lights on.
Yeah. I still think someone's going to take a shot at like Jalen Milroe at the top of the 2nd round, just because the tools, right? The athleticism, but it has not been a good week for any of those guys. So maybe they have a good day tomorrow and the game brings better luck, but it's not trending in a good direction. But let's hop over to the defensive side of the ball very quickly. Before we do that, I also want to tell you guys about Game Time, the best place to get tickets for anything you want to see. We love Football is almost over, but we love going to hockey, basketball games. Celtics, Bruins, Red Sox will be starting soon. Pitchers and catchers and spring training report right around the corner, and we get all of our tickets with Game Time. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier because they filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The Celtics just tipped off, I think, a couple minutes ago. You can still go to Game Time after the game starts to get tickets to that game if you're up in Boston, or if you want to go to Jets at Bruins at the Garden tomorrow. Log on to Game Time. $48 is the cheapest get in, or you can use that Game Time Pick super deal. Move right behind the Bruins bench. $117. You can heckle them and tell them to play better because they deserve it in the process. So make sure you head to Game Time for their lowest price guaranteed and other in-app features such as seat views, all-in pricing, and of course, Game Time Picks, which makes it even easier to save more on your sports tickets or any other tickets you're looking for, such as concerts, comedy, theater, anything at all, and take the guesswork out of buying all those tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Game time.
All right, back to the trenches on the defensive side of the football. People are yelling at you about Deion Walker in the chat. He was a little bit better today. Then he left with an injury. A couple guys left with injuries today, which was unfortunate. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, who I really like. Princely, Ole Miss edge rusher. He left early. All the Ole Miss guys were leaving.
Trey Amos did too, yeah.
Too. I don't know what's going on with Lane Kiffin showed up, and they all left early with injuries. Coincidence. But
come get your guy, Mike Cadley.
Seriously. Jackson Dart too. Hoodie Dart today. We went and did not help him. But what'd you see from the defensive trenches? Maybe start with the interior, and then we'll get to the edge guys.
Yeah. So on Walker, let me be clear. What I was talking about was the physical tools. And I think what you've seen from Deion Walker is exactly who he is as a prospect and why he's like a high second-round pick. The ceiling's immense because he's big. When he lines it up right, he's powerful. He's quick. He has the athleticism, all of that. But he doesn't use all those tools consistently. He comes in too high. He can get, his power taken out of him sometimes by more stout offensive linemen, things like that. You're drafting this guy as a project. This is why he's a second-round pick and not a first-round pick. Now, Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams have a tremendous history developing defensive linemen, and that's the draw here. Deion Walker is not ready to be an impact player day one, and you're seeing that at the Senior Bowl, but you're also seeing the incredible tools. So that's what excites me about him. It's the potential. I thought he was better today, like you said, but you still sort of see those ups and downs. The fact he was better, and he was better specifically, I think, with some of the leverage stuff, tells me he's taking the coaching well, which is encouraging. He's also only 20 years old. Like, he's got a ton of time to get better. The guy I'm really impressed with, again, you do the tiers, right? Mason Graham, Deion Walker. The day three guy in that kind of mold is Cam Jackson, who was really good again today. In his, not just quickness, but subtleness, at his size, the way he can shuffle his feet, the way he can use his hands subtly to like, he has a good first step, right? He gets off and it can be, maybe it's not a decisive win, but he can get off and get a slight advantage with the get off and then use that next move, whether it's hands or his feet, to turn that into a decisive win. Usually don't see that from guys that size. So I've really liked what I've seen from him. And he's another guy that came in a little lower projection because, yes, he was at Florida last year, but he spent most of his career at Memphis. How's he going to look against these power four guys? And he's been really good. He's probably been, Nolan's up there. Walter Nolan's been outstanding. But he's a different sort of player. Like the true potential nose players, I think Cam Jackson's been the best guy there.
Yeah, he has been impressive. And another like late round guy who I thought's been good, Darius Alexander out of Toledo. I just pulled up the consensus mock. He's at 185 right now. So he is.
Who is that?
Darius Alexander from Toledo.
Oh, yeah, he's been good.
So if you really go elsewhere early on and you want one of those later, like there's a ton of depth there with these, interior defenders on both teams, American and national. So that's a guy, Darius Alexander, who late has been impressive, especially as a pass rusher the last 2 days. But back to Walker, like It's just the pad level. Like, he gets way too high, which he's 6'7", right? That's going to happen.
Right.
So if you trust Terrell Williams and Mike Vrabel to teach that out of him and play low, then you see, like, in teams, back-to-back plays would be a tackle for loss run stuff, and then he gets to the quarterback, would have been maybe a sack, definitely a pressure. Like, you see the flashes, so you just have to trust that the coaching is going to get that out of him. But again, like, he's 6'7", and it's the pad level, so just it's a question mark, and that's the risk. So to the edge, who'd you like from the edge? Mike Green, we talked about that rep versus Josh Connerly. He was very good even beyond that, even in team drills as well. But who else caught your eye on the outside of that defensive?
Princely was good before he got hurt. I thought Ezeraku was better today. I thought he had a better day. I thought he took a step forward. All the Ole Miss guys are really, really impressive. Kyle Kennard was good too. I thought Kyle Kennard had a better day. And John Joyner, who didn't do much yesterday, was a guy I was looking for from Minnesota. Another kind of one of these project players, day 3 guy, but I think he's showing that he's maybe a little more advanced than you would have thought coming in.
Yep. Ezeraku, and he had 2 good reps versus Connerly and Ursary. I think they were both on the right side. But 2 really good.
Ursary once when Ursary was on the left side, or like it was a draw, but it was you could give it to him if you wanted to give it to him.
He is impressive. Him and Kennard, I think if we want to talk about this new style of Patriots defensive front, like someone said Ezeraku reminds him of Harold Landry, like a guy Vrabel drafted early. I just pulled up the relative athletic scores. Landry was 6'2", 252 coming out, and Ezeraku is 6'2", 250. So pretty close, pretty similar body types. Ezeraku obviously has a lot longer length. Hand size are pretty much exactly the same. So I could see the fit, and he's been pretty impressive, and Kennard too, in that style of more of like an aggressive, penetrating edge rusher if you're playing that 4 down front under Vrabel.
Yeah, I think if it's not Abdul Carter at the top, those are both guys that are in the conversation at 38. I don't think either one. Maybe they sneak into the back end of the first round. Maybe, I guess there are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5 picks ahead of them in the second round. Maybe they go in there because those guys aren't going to play the run. Like, those are pass rushers. Those are pure pass rushers. I throw Josiah Stewart in here too, who had a good day. Yeah. But those got they're probably going to go day 2 because they are situational pass rushers, but they're good situational pass rushers and they seem to fit.
One of those two or like a Jack Sawyer is going to start like a second round run of edge defenders, probably at the top. So
we're going to see, like we saw with tackles last year, from 35 to 65. It's going to be like half edge rushers.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we'll do the running backs in the third round.
And the tight ends will go somewhere in there probably as well. But someone who's probably not on the Patriots radar, but just had another awesome day, Shamar Stewart. He's a beast. He could be a top 15, 20 pick. Just all the traits you want. So he was very good again today. But back a level, linebackers. Anyone you catch your eye today from that linebacker group?
Still not a ton, because they're just not doing the drills where the linebackers are in focus. I'm blanking on the name of the guy from South Carolina. He just seems to be moving well in team drills. Roster closed out. Hang on.
South Carolina. I'm blank.
Find it here.
Was he on American or
Demetrius Knight? Demetrius Knight.
Oh yeah.
He moves well, and at 247, that's obviously great to see. But there haven't been a ton of opportunities where it's like linebackers in coverage, and that's really what you want to see. So we'll have to look more at them in the game.
Yep. I had Auburn's Eugene Asante on there as well. He just seems like he's just all over the place. Like he
has been around a lot. That is a good name.
He's just around the ball a lot. So that was another linebacker I had to watch there. But we can go back.
Although Eugene Asante should probably be a defensive back in New England.
Just
Eugene Asante.
Eugene Asante.
Yeah. That's what's his all size? I see when I see that. I just forget which one's his first name.
What's his size? Can he play
no, he's a line. He's
your box safety type thing. But he just seems to have a lot of energy, and he's just always around the ball, like throwing himself into the fire. So he's been kind of hard to miss out there with the linebacker group. But take a step back to the cornerbacks, and we can do corner, safeties, DBs all in one and wrap this up. Anyone specifically catch your eye in one-on-ones? The other thing with the quarterback struggling is, like, when they get into teams, it feels like they're rarely throwing the ball down the field. So when you're watching on TV, it's tough to get a feel for the corners and coverage a lot of the time. So a lot of it feels like one-on-ones, the stuff we're watching. But anyone from the defensive back group that you liked today or yesterday as a whole?
I will say Bilal Cohn took a little bit of a step back today. Wasn't quite as good as he was yesterday. I thought Mac McWilliams was really good from UCF. Yeah. Now, the Patriots need to add size in the secondary. They probably need more than one corner, so he's maybe in play, but he's 5'10", so there is that thing. But boy, is he a vicious competitor. I thought Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky had a really good day today. That's a guy that is more that true outside guy. Yeah, Mac McWilliams had that one great rep. And then in the secondary, I still like Billy Bowman. I still think Billy Bowman is making plays.
I had McWilliams definitely was on my list.
Yeah.
The other kind of similar mold, like another smaller guy, Louisville's Quincy Riley, really sticky in one-on-ones today, good athlete, but again, it's just, that smaller mold. So maybe it will work against, opposite Christian Gonzalez, but how much size do they want there? We'll have to wait and see. But Quincy Riley, I thought was very impressive today. So out of Louisville. So we'll see what else he can do this week. But they cut away from special teams a lot. But did you get any special teams takes you want to get off the chest?
A little bit. That the punter from Florida, Jeremy Crenshaw, is banging it. He was hammering the ball. Now, Patriots don't need a punter, so you can't really do anything with that. Apparently, Ryan Fitzgerald shanked a kick pretty bad. That's what Evan said. So there is that.
Evan was watching the special teams.
I know, right? Somebody probably told him. I don't think either of these kickers or Patriots fits just because they don't have the experience in the inclement weather. But shout out Jeremy Crenshaw, kicking the crap out of the ball. Good for him. I think Patriots are set at punter, but credit where credit's due.
I'll say special teams note, Bubba Ventrone, Patriots legend.
Oh, I love it. The energy he brings is fantastic.
Unbelievable. So they do the, one-on-ones. Each team ends practice with one-on-ones pretty much for each positional group. And Bubba Ventrone gets up there. He's the head coach for the American team. He does like a whole kind of wrestling thing where he announces like from the University of whatever and does the player. So he's been plenty of energy brought to that team. Assistant head coach and special teams coordinator for the Browns. He's head coach in the American team now. So who knows? Maybe Bubba Ventrone, future head coach in the NFL.
I will say this on the special teams. They did mention during the broadcast that they're going to do the college kickoff, not the NFL kickoff on Saturday. So that's a little disappointing because, some of these guys like Dane Jackson or really anybody like you're looking for is probably going to need to contribute on special teams. We won't get to see him in that role.
Because it feels like the dynamic kickoff is going to stay next year. I think it was Schefter had a tweet today.
Yeah.
About how it was better. And like Darren Rizzi was someone who liked it. So it seems like the dynamic kickoff is going to stay. So, it was NFL EVP Jeff Miller said the new dynamic kickoff led to a 57% increase in returns. Positive sign the rule could stay. And then Schefter retweeted that and said Darren Rizzi was at the forefront of the new rule that the NFL believes it worked out this season. So maybe the dynamic kickoff is here to stay, but we won't see it in the Senior Bowl. So any notes we missed, or we can wrap this one up?
I think that's pretty much it.
All right. So 2 days down, day 3, last day of practice is tomorrow. We'll be back sometime to break that one down. And then the game on Saturday puts a bow on Senior Bowl week. So make sure you guys are locked into Patriots Press Pass. Turn on your notifications, subscribe there, wherever else you get your podcasts. You can also follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com for his Patriots and Senior Bowl coverage there. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines and head over to patspulpit.com for our Patriots coverage online there as well. Thanks for everyone for tuning in with us tonight, and we will see you guys tomorrow.